The Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derbies, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Strirrin Dirt Racing, host of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirrindirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, coming to you live from the North Park building here at Academy Square. And that camera just went down. So we're going to have to try and get that back on its feet. Good show lined up for tonight, number 242 on deck. We've got Jeremy Gard coming up here in just a minute or two. And then we're also going to be talking with Ed Brewester. Johnny Gullo's on deck to talk about the beatdown and Halloween Havoc coming up around the corner. We've also got Ed Brewester. He's talking about the ECC that was down there in Midlothian, Virginia. And finishing it out, we're going to be talking with Mark Elliott. Mark Elliott going to be announcing at the Hillbilly Heaven show coming up here on Saturday at the Columbiana County Fairgrounds. That's the one that Dave Diver's been on, talking a little bit about, which the dominoes began falling last Saturday with Lake Erie Rumble, and now we've got in the Northeast a big year-end derby every weekend from now until like the second week of October. It's going to be busy. It's a busy time of year.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of good shows coming up. Seen a lot of stuff, a lot of people talking about a lot of different stuff online. So there's a lot of good stuff coming. Dave has really put a lot of time and energy into his show this weekend. Be interesting to see how that turns out. A lot of good stuff happening. There's, this used to be about the end of Derby season. I mean, we're September, usually in our area at least. The state fair used to be it, but that isn't even an event anymore, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. There's San Filippo in October. There's a lot of great shows coming up. A lot of if you can't get your Derby fix on next month, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and a couple of those events are going to be doubled up. There's going to be one Derby here and another Derby there in another place. We'll get into all that stuff in a little bit. Jeremy Gard, we're going to be getting him on the line here to talk a little bit about some of the pressures that comes with building power plants for people running at Blizzard Bash and what his year's been like. It's certainly been busy for him, just like it has for any of the other Derby product providers as a whole. It just seems like that industry continues to gain momentum and get bigger and bigger year after year, and every time you think it's hit the bubble and it's about to pop, when you look at what the outlaw classes and stuff have become and where those have gone, and the full weld cars, around here they're outlaws, and that trend back to stock, they're still pumping stuff out. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, every time you get on Facebook, you see somebody new that's building something or come out with something, a new product. So it's cool. I mean, I definitely think that there's it's a growing field.
Growing is an understatement, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's been growing. Now it's just continuing that upward trend. Jeremy Gard can tell us a little bit more about it. He's wading around knee deep in 2G carburetors and stripped down engine blocks. How's things been going, Jeremy?
Oh, pretty good. How about you guys?
Not
been
bad.
Busy.
Not bad.
Been good though. Been good. How'd back to school go?
What's that?
How'd back to school go?
I got a freshman and I have a seventh grader.
Your life is miserable right now.
Which means I'm getting old.
So how's all the preparation? Blizzard Bash waiting right around the corner. You got some motors that are going to be running out there. Some more big shows coming up in October in Virginia. You're going to have engines there. How has the summer been? How's the postseason been looking?
I've tried to slow down and it never works.
No.
I've taken a step back from taking a lot of new orders, a lot of new customers. I take a handful a year, and basically I've just been taking care of my customers. And with the rule changes and the different build changes, I've seen a lot of people, stock style engines. They want new engines. They have the horsepower style engines. They're wanting lower horsepower engines for these stock shows. So, that's keeping me busy. But I've got 4 in the shop right now that are running Blizzard Bash that I'm finishing up. A couple of them are real close, and one's on the run stand. So we've stayed steady. I mean, it's been real busy. carb distributor combos have been crazy. And with the stock shows, people are just taking the old 350s and putting the carb distributor on them and going racing.
Right.
So
now, Jeremy,
keeping me busy.
You changed things up a little bit. You were always like the kind of like the man for the 2G carburetors, but now you're also putting out a 4412. How would you say sales have broken down on that? I mean, are you selling more of the 2Gs or more of the 4412s?
2Gs are way more popular. Most engines, contrary to popular belief, don't need that much CFM, in my opinion, for what that's worth. So, stock style engines, you could take a 330 to 350 CFM Rochester, put that out, and you're going to get great results. Now, with the higher horsepower engines, we run the bigger bore Rochesters or the Hollies. It's to me, it's more, I'm probably selling, for every 10 Rochesters, I'll sell one or two of the Hollies. And I don't push the Hollies real hard.
Yeah.
They're a very, they take more work.
Yeah.
When with the center float, with the front end start to come up on them, they get a little bit tricky.
Yep.
For mod cars, they work great. It's an owner preference, and if somebody wants a Holly, like I've got 3 engines in the shop right now that are running Blizzard Bash, and they're all 4412 engines. Wow! So it's just a matter of the type of build that I'm doing and where they're running and what kind of power they need.
Yeah. It just and we've talked before, but to me, I've always just believed that if you can get a good carburetor, a basic carburetor working well, that it's there's just less that can go wrong, and that's kind of how I feel. I mean, that's I switched over to one of your carburetors, and it's amazing what a good carburetor will do for you. But I just feel like there's less that can go wrong with a 2G than there is with 4412.
What's nice about the 2G for me is if something goes wrong, I can walk the customer through taking the top off, and there's just a few working parts in those. Yep. And I can diagnose, we've had so many of them apart, I can walk the customer through, hey, pull the needle and see, let's see if we got dirt in it, check this, check that, and it's user friendly where I can kind of walk a person through that doesn't even need to know about carburetors. Yep. I can walk them through and they can make it happen.
Yeah. What do you think about the way Derby is going? I mean, you obviously started a couple of years ago, and I mean, you've really seen the evolution. I mean, what do you think about Derby? And I mean, it's kind of, it was going to where like the super hard stuff was, really popular, but now it's kind of, I think that's kind of evening it out, and it's going back to more of the stock stuff. I mean, what do you think about the state of Derby right now?
What I like about Derby right now is the fact that there's something for everyone. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to build a mod car and spend $20,000, then you can kick the windows out and you can go to a show like Mayhem or some of these other big shows that are simplifying the rules and be competitive. Mm-hmm. I don't like or dislike any builds. When I ran, it was more mods. When I started out 22 years ago, we ran Impalas. Actually, we started out with Chryslers. My very first car I ever ran was a 1973 Chrysler Imperial.
There you go.
And had the 440 engine in it, and away we went. Knocked the hole in the oil pan in the heat race, and we ran the feature with no oil in it. Didn't care. The old 440s, you can run until they seize, and the next day they fire back up.
Very true. I've done that.
It's crazy, but it's evolved, and back then it was a lot more simple, and you had your guys cheating and stuff. That is what it is. But right now there's something for everybody. Yeah. And I think that with the complaining that goes on, if you're going to complain, then just run a different class. Yeah, there's true. Something. If you want to run a van, run a van. If you want to run a compact, run a compact. If you want to run a stock show, run a stock show. If you want to, I don't think any class is ruining any other class. I think it's just giving people more options.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
Which kind of, and there's a downside to that, because then that leads to lower car counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more options.
Which I think is what you see a lot of, because, there may be 10 guys that want to run mod and then 20 guys that run stock, and then vice versa the next show. So I think it kind of, in a way, it's a good thing, and in a way, I think it kind of hurts the car counts. A lot of different rules, and there's some guys out there trying to unify the rules, and You got a guy coming on your show later, Mark Elliott, who's a hell of a guy, and he's worked his butt off the last year to help all these other promoters and get things together, and what they're doing is good. That's going to keep the sport going.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You are you going to venture out and watch Blizzard Bash this year?
In my driving retirement, I've taken up bird hunting.
Nice.
I duck and goose hunt, so that's hunting season. So I don't know. We got a trip planned to Wyoming, Oklahoma, and I've got an engine customer in Missouri that's going to take me hunting. So I've got some trips planned. So we'll see how it all falls in.
You better make sure at least you have cell phone reception wherever you're hunting.
Wyoming, I did. We went to Wyoming last December, and I had absolutely no cell phone service. I've never been to Wyoming. It's beautiful, but we had to go on top of hills to get like 1 bar of service. It was miserable. I didn't realize how much we rely on our cell phones. It's kind of a good and a bad thing again. But
right.
But no, I would like to go. I've got a lot of customers. I've probably got 4 new builds going out there. I've got Eric Millet's engine that's going up on the run stand tomorrow evening. It should be up on the stand. I've got Chris Lancaster. I got Daryl Monroe's new engine. They're all up on the docket. So I've got some engines that are going to be out there that are going to be fresh. So I'd like to be there. We just have to see how the timing is.
Eric's a good stress tester for your motors. He definitely is on the gas with them.
Oh yeah, if you need something tested, send it to Eric.
Yeah.
He'll put it through the ringer for you. The guy, he's a hell of a guy. He's actually become a really good friend of mine through engines and stuff. And he knows he's hard on him and never complains when something goes wrong. Just here, fix it or take a look at it. Hey, I got it hot. I want you to look at it. Mm-hmm. He's a good guy.
Absolutely.
Eric was one of the people that we've talked to in the past, and we sort of had the same theme going in the last episode that we had, talking about the pressures that the drivers feel through the course of the summer, trying to make sure that their stuff is top-notch, and they go into Blizzard Bash sharp, and also the pressures that they feel being in that national bracket and trying to keep that spot, and the pressures that they feel with the attention that's in that, because you're among an elite group of only 64 drivers in the country that have a chance to go for that Blizzard Bash National Championship. Changing that around a little bit to your position, you're in a little bit of a different spot because it's your product that's making those cars go. Do you feel any pressure, additional pressure, when you get close to Blizzard Bash in terms of the motors that you're putting out? Because a couple of those names that you just listed there are some of the heavy hitters in the Blizzard Bash lineup.
It's, Chris, every derby is stressful for me. and it's what you have is you have a bunch of parts that you put together. There's machine work you do. There's things you can control. Then there's things that I don't forge the rods. I don't forge the crank. So there's always variables. And then there's always human error. I mean, anybody that tells you differently is a fool and a liar. And so these people put, and it's probably, I think I've built 550 engines last I counted over 10 years. We started in 2008. And and we've had failures. I've got people that would like to meet me on a street corner and beat the crap out of me. That's just how it goes. And we've tried to do our best. That's one thing I can't say. But there's always pressure. People take their money that they work for all year. They save up for an engine, or they save their tax return, and they put their faith in you to build them a product.
Right.
And they go out and something happens. That's a terrible feeling for them, and it's even worse for me, I think, because you're just sitting there, and to be honest, I mean, Brian and I talk a lot. I really do not care what people say about me anymore. That's a great point I've gotten to in my life. I've got my customers, I've got my friends, and I've got my reputation. But when I see the disappointment in somebody, if something stupid happens, it's tough to deal with, and it's a lot of stress, and that's why I don't go to a lot of derbies anymore, because I just pace on the sidelines. It's a lot of stress, and you're sitting there and you're just hoping and you know that you've done all you can do, but sometimes things go wrong.
Sure.
So yeah, for me it's a lot of stress, and it's just a lot. The fact that the people put their trust in me is a good thing, and I try to do the best I can do with it and put the best product out I can and constantly improve on mistakes we've made.
I just saw a post come through Facebook by Cody Koch talking about the Tim Tigert Memorial Derby, which is going to be coming up. That's another one that's coming up this fall.
Yes.
What's your relationship and I guess it's better to put it the business relationship. I know you guys talk quite a bit, but the business relationship with Jason Koch, because for a while he was running a ton of your motors and he was authorized to rebuild them. Is that still happening?
That's well, you caught me on this one.
I didn't mean to.
You're fine.
Okay.
You're fine. There's Jason asked me to go along with him on this. We've talked. Jason's been a good friend for years, a great customer. He's sold a lot of engines for me. Jason used to build engines with his father. His dad is a hell of a guy.
Right.
If you ever get a chance to meet his father, just a class act, and Jason is too. Jason decided to go on his own. He was going he wanted to go towards the LS era of things, try some stuff over there, and that's not an area I want to go in. And
right.
So as far it's not. I'm a small block Chevy guy. That's
Sure.
what I build, and there's nothing wrong with an LS. Everyone's got their own taste and things, but the relationship is there's no hard feelings. Jason is on his own or whoever he's got with him. He has rebuilt some engines for guys in Virginia, and he can rebuild engines. And if he's got questions, he can call me like he always has. He's just decided that he wants to build on his own. He's got the capability. He's smart enough to do it, and I wish him all the luck in the world. But as far as me partnering with anybody, maybe 5 years ago I would have considered it, but I'm trying to keep a little bit of a low profile and just slow
Right.
down a little bit. If anything, I'll send him business.
That's cool.
When I turn down people, I can send them somewhere now. And Jason's been inside the engines. He knows. We've talked a lot. And like I said, Jason's a smart guy, so he'll be successful. And he goes. The good thing about Jason right now is he goes to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
A lot of big name builders don't go to shows as much anymore, or if any. And a guy like Jason that's got engine knowledge and can tune carbs, and he's great with methanol. But Jason, 22 years ago I met Jason, and Jason was running alcohol carburetors back then. And I always wondered how the hell does this guy make a 2-barrel Rochester running alcohol, and he's done a lot with that and methanol, and he's a good guy. So there's zero hard feelings. There was no breakup. There was no anything.
Sure.
He just decided to do his own thing like everybody does, eventually. And I wish him luck. I think he'll be successful.
Now, Jeremy, I know you mentioned that Jason, when he ran your motors, he ran methanol. Do you have customers now that still also run methanol?
I have very few, and any ones that I've ever had that have requested methanol, I've sent to Jason. I was just wondering,
is there any difference in engine wear between a methanol engine and just a normal gas engine? Like, is there anything different between them when you tear them apart to rebuild them, or
honestly, I have not tore down a methanol engine in years. Jason would know more about that because anytime something's happened to his, he's tore them down and we've walked through it. But you don't get a lot of the heat with the methanol.
Yeah.
So there's good and there's bad. They also will run longer, which can cause damage later on down the road. With running longer, and the temperatures don't get as hot. But Jason's had success with them, and very few problems with them. But I just don't have enough customers to give a general answer on that question. I just I have not taken apart like 10 of them.
Yeah. Now, we've all heard stories of motors running for hours without water. As a professional builder, what's the longest you've known of one of your motors running without water?
I want to say, we're going back years now. We're probably going to go back 7 years. Tony Dunn from Indiana, he's really good. Vincent Toast, grew up with him. Tony Dunn ran an hour and 10 minutes and the radiator was completely knocked out of the car.
Wow.
And, we took that thing apart. I changed head gaskets. Now, like I said, we're going back 7-8 years.
Yeah.
And it was at Lawrenceburg. I think it was Lawrenceburg. I'd have to double check. He would know, and it was like a $5,000 to win show. And it was actually it was on video. You could see it plain as day, and he ended up winning the show. And I thought he was, I'm thinking, my God, when this thing going to shut off? I was pretty new into it. I might have been two years into it at this point, but and there's 45, 50 minutes is a common. That's pretty common. I think that's with any builder. I think there's plenty of elaborated stories of horsepower and how long things will run without water, but reality is, at some point, there's going to be some breakdown.
Oh. So that 1,000 horsepower engine that ran for 2.5 hours with no water wasn't true?
In somebody's twisted, demented mind, that was true, Chris. But honestly, you try to. We're doing. I've been doing a lot with roller cam bearings and the stock blocks, and we're having really good success with that. Cam bearings have always been an issue over the years, and there's simple fixes to it. But when you start getting into higher horsepower engines, those simple fixes to keep the cam bearings together become difficult fixes. So to eliminate that, we've put the 50 millimeter roller cam bearings in, and we've had great success with them. It's more expensive on the top end to do it, but now your roller cam bearings, your roller rockers, your roller lifters, everything's roller at that point. So it really eliminates the friction inside the engine.
That's cool. Now, if you were if you were still a driver, what type of motor would you build for yourself? Would you build a 383 with a lot of horsepower, or would you go something smaller?
Obvious he'd build a Gard.
Well, yeah, something. Something.
I'd call somebody to help me. A 318 Chrysler, Brian.
There you go. I'm still waiting, man. I'm still waiting.
Oh boy, over the years that I've ran, basically, most of the time I built myself 355s. The very first engine I really truly went through and built for myself, Rob Switzer in Canada has it, and I sold that to him 7 years ago, and I finally got it back.
Nice.
Wow.
And it's been together for. I had it. Well, that's what was in the car when we won Blizzard Bash in 2011.
Wow.
That was the engine that was in my car in 2011, and I just got it back now, and I can't wait to get inside. I don't have it apart yet to get inside it, but I built myself 383s. It depends on where you're running. I can get enough. I was never a huge horsepower guy. Yeah. I want to be the last guy running at the end of the Derby. I don't care if the engine's 400. I don't care if it's 400 degrees or 500 degrees or 150 degrees. I just want to be the last guy running.
Yep.
So, when you start adding stroke and piston speed, you give up the heat. You're starting to get, extra degrees of heat and stuff like that. But I'd say, if I was to build something for myself right now, it'd be a 355.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I've always kind of thought that. I mean, I've even with race car engines, when I've because that's where my background comes, as and there was guys that would build these incredible horsepower motors, but you'd have to rebuild them about every 2 races, and I'm like, it just doesn't seem like a lot of. I mean, it's the big blocks have come a long way in this area. I mean, that's what we run, and you can get a lot of horsepower, and they're lasting decent, but it took a while before they really got to where they could.
Crate motors revolutionized that class, but the small blocks, could get
crate engines. That's really made things simple for circle track guys.
Yeah,
but the 358 division that was around here, you had to freshen those every 500 laps. It was crazy. I mean, the maintenance program.
They were turning them 9,500 too. That'll wear a motor.
But it sounded so good.
It did.
Oh, they do. Those solid roller horsepower engines just sing.
Yeah.
And there's guys building engines. Juice builds a good engine. He builds a high horsepower engine, and they run good, they sound good, and he's successful at what he does.
Yep.
That's not my market though, and that's why he's got his market. He's another guy. He's a good guy, and he's trying to help Derby people out, whether they're his customer or not. So that's a good thing, and everybody's got their little niche in the market and what they think is best for Demolition Derby. And what I've learned over the years is I'm going to stay in my comfort zone because that's where I'm successful.
Yep.
Juice was working on Josh and Ben's car out in Topeka.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just walking them through, explaining the carburetor.
I
love that theory where you can get this expensive motor and you just throw whatever carburetor sitting on your shelf on it. It's like you're foolish. You need to invest some money in the carburetor too and make sure you're getting something good. Otherwise, it's not breathing right.
And the tuning. timing. I mean, honestly, you can't just take a carburetor out of the box and throw it on top of an engine. You need to know something, and that's the mistake that people make is you can't, dart cells heads out of the box pre-assembled, ready to go. Mm-hmm. If you put those on your engine, you're asking for a failure. Mm-hmm. If you take a carburetor out of the box and throw it on a derby engine, you may be good one race, you may be good 2 races, but it's going to catch up. Mm-hmm. Tuning an engine and timing an engine is so important. And that's often the most overlooked thing is, carburation. Oh, I got this great engine I bought from him, and I got this Holly on the shelf that's got 82 jets in it, and, everything's too big for it, but I'm going to put it on this stock 350 that I got. Mm-hmm. And that's where you start, dying out when you hit and black smoke coming out the headers and all kinds of problems. Yep. So, people overlook the tuning and people that can tune an engine, that's a asset to be able to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. When you time your motors, do you do it by ear or do you use timing gun?
With my engines, everything I time in with a gun, but I can get them pretty close by ear. If we're at a show and I don't have a gun with me or it's hard to get in there with the timing light, I can, at a certain RPM, if I turn the RPM real low, I can watch the balancer, watch the timing tab, if the light's on, and get it really close. By ear is just, that'd be something I would do in a pinch. Yeah. You definitely want to get a timing light on it because obviously if you're, 38 degrees when you think you're 32 degrees, you're going to blow that engine up eventually. Yeah. And then it's not going to run as long hot. So I try, like I said, in a pinch situation, yeah, but every engine that goes on the stand, we put a timing light on and set the timing. And not everyone times the same. Yeah, sure. Some of them time in the bigger horsepower engines, 31, 32 degrees. You can get 34 out of a lower horsepower engine. The general consensus is 3,000 RPMs, 34 degrees. Gotcha. You can time about every engine right there and be safe.
Now you know.
Now I know.
In my opinion, which for whatever that's worth.
What else? I was just going to ask you something else, and now I completely lost my train of thought.
No, I'm not giving you a free engine this year.
Damn. No, that was in the text. I wasn't going to ask that over air, but if you want to bring it up, there was something else I wanted to ask you about motors and tuning, and now I can't remember what it was. It was going to be a good question, but.
You need me to come to New York and tune your Chrysler?
I would love you to come to New York. And hey, we got snow geese here. You ever shoot any snow geese?
Yeah, flying rats. Yeah, we shoot those and let them lay where they fall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, you want to go out and have fun. That's a fun time. You just shoot, man. You can shoot as many as you want and let them lay.
Yep. Yeah, those things they're a step above seagulls, but they're legal to shoot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're both white flying rats.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. But it's cool to hear you're getting out and getting some fringe benefits from some of your customers. I mean, you got some guys out there in the Midwest. I mean, if you got into deer hunting, you could have some beautiful deer hunting land out there too. That'd be cool.
Yeah, no, I don't have patience to deer hunt because I can't sit there for 4 hours and not see anything. Usually with bird hunting, you're guaranteed to see something. You may not shoot something, but birds are moving all the time.
Yeah, that's definitely
that's
true.
My patience level. I have about, if I don't see anything within an hour, I'm gone. Time to do something different, more productive.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that for sure.
But, yeah.
How's your dad doing? Does he go watch any derbies anymore, or is he?
Dad has little to nothing to do with derbies. He's got the lake house. That's where he spends the summers and some weekends in the winter, and happily married, and things are going good. So he's
good for him.
He's into different things now.
Good for him. He put a lot of time into derbying over the years, so he deserves to have a break and relax.
He did. He just turned August 17th. He turned 65.
Did he retire again or retire?
No, he's not retired. He's still, we have that little business and he runs that, and he does good with it, and it keeps him occupied and keeps him moving, which is a good thing. Yep, don't want to sit still too long, and it's not too stressful on him, which is good. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Does he ever come over and hang out at the shop when you're working on motors?
He does. He's actually going to be over tomorrow. I don't even know if he knows that yet, but he'll be there tomorrow. We gotta tear an engine off the stand and then throw another one up there. And
cool.
Nice.
Got one shipping to Tennessee, and then this one will ship to, then Eric's will ship to California this week. So, be a busy week.
Keeping it covered.
Coast to coast.
Yep.
That's right.
We got a couple other people that are knocking on the door, wondering when we're going to be getting to them. Is there anybody that you wanted to make mention of, or anything going forward as we get into this fall season, to the third part of the year?
I just wish everybody luck, and thanks for 10 years of supporting me and believing in me, and hopefully there's a couple more left in me, and we can continue to be successful.
That sure sounds good to me.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you making time coming on the show, and hopefully everything goes smooth getting those motors together, and hopefully your phone doesn't ring too much here in the next couple of weeks we get closer to Blizzard Bash.
Right on, guys. Take care. Thanks a lot.
See you later,
Thanks,
Jeremy.
See ya.
Bye now.
Bye.
There goes Jeremy Gard. We were talking here in this first half hour a little bit about Blizzard Bash. Probably be a good time to tell you about it right now. Blizzard Bash is coming up in November. November the 7th is the heat draws, the Kansas Expo Center in Topeka, Kansas. 7 to 10 o'clock is the pit party and heat draws for the national and qualifying brackets. November the 8th is the opening round of action, 4 o'clock start for the national and qualifying teams. November the 9th is the second round for the national and qualifying teams. At 5 o'clock, the compact and limited weld teams are going to do their heat draws. November the 10th is a twin bill, 10 o'clock start for the compact and limited weld team heats, and take a break and come back with all the Team B features, the trucks and limited weld one and dones. November the 11th is Championship Sunday. 1 o'clock start for the Bone Stocks 80s mod and all the Team A mains. Online, blizzardbash.com. That's also going to be streamed online. I know everybody's dying for information on that one. Blizzard Bash this year overseen by Smash It Demolition Derby. September the 20... Well, that didn't save it, did it? Oh, there it is. Okay, September the 22nd, the Ashland County Fair in Ashland, Ohio is their final fair show. 5 o'clock start time on that one. They got the street stocks, 80s wire class, compacts, trucks, youth, and Power Wheels on the card. Then they're going to have the cleanup derby October the 13th at the Fayette County Fairgrounds in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. Start time was 6 o'clock. Full-size cleanup derby. The compact cleanup, mild weld, street stocks, mowers, and Power Wheels online, smashitderby.com. Once they wrap up with that, they will have roughly a month to get ready for Blizzard Bash 2018. We're going to go ahead and get Johnny on the phone. Touch base with him a little bit about some of the stuff that's upcoming. Ed Brewster said he was only going to need about 5 minutes. He's so beat up from his marathon event down there in Midlothian. Yeah, they had a rain out at the big racetrack, and when the big racetrack is in action, they can't run at the RC track. So they didn't start Friday night's card until midnight after the track finished. So he was up for several hours running through the first round of action. They had a bunch of classes down there, but we'll get into all that here in just a minute when we get off the line with Johnny Gullo, talking a little bit about the West Jordan Beatdown. Bryce Baumgartner was out there for that one, and then they've got Halloween Havoc coming up in October. Day of Reckoning is coming up this Saturday, which is another thing that I figured Johnny was going to want to hit on. But we might not get him. It's ringing. Got the answering machine.
Things must be busy at Burger King.
Hey, Johnny, it's Chris. It's 6:30. Just wondered if 5:30 out there, or no, 4:30 out there. Just wondered if you had time to come on and talk a little bit about the show. Give me a call, thanks. Well, in any case, Storied Racing, they got a couple derbies that are coming up, as we alluded to a little bit ago. Their next big show is September the 14th. That's the Day of Reckoning. Utah State Fair at the in Salt Lake City, Utah. That's at that day's a 47 arena. $50,000 total payout, $8,000 in stock class. The first 24 cars to pass that get $1,000 back right away. That's like a feature win.
Absolutely.
The Mad Dog top award pays $4,000. There's a runner-up to Mad Dog paying $2,000. And then Halloween Havoc is October the 13th. $30,000 Run With Your Brown show.
Crazy.
So something they'll find someplace for you to run. All the payouts are based on car count. So the more you bring, the more the money's going to get spread around. That is back at the Golden Spike Arena, back in Ogden, Utah.
Nice.
The action over the weekend, the West Jordan Beatdown was pretty good. Greg Elser and Skinny, of course, and Todd Sayopo working on the live stream for that on DerbyTixUSA.com. That's Johnny Gullo's go-to source where they have dates all over the country. You can sign up, create your membership, and then from there you can log however many derbies you want to. They have to be real derbies. But you know, you get what I'm saying there.
Absolutely.
Chris Polly's checking in. Good to hear from Pork Chop. He's looking forward to Blizzard Bash. Cast in the Valley. We're going to transition this back into some of our Virginia conversation. Cast in the Valley is October the 20th. It's the 9th derby that they've ever held in their 5th year. They number them like their UFC fights. This is Cast in the Valley 9. Shenandoah County Fairgrounds in Woodstock, Virginia. Showtime's 5 o'clock. Compact, stock V8s, modified V8s, SUV class, monster builds, monster payout. It all goes to benefit Townsville Volunteer Fire Department online, facebook.com/Cast Valley. They do have that raffle car that Team Cardiac Arrest is going to be raffling off. That was the same one that Josh Wilkins built last year, and the guy that won it was already in the feature, so they gave him $1,000 cash instead.
It's not bad.
For a W body, I think it's a pretty fair trade, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was in mothballs. They're going to try and raffle that off again, and the same rules apply. So if somebody wins it, it's got a car in the feature. It's not a fresh car feature. You got to run the car.
Run what you brung.
So, not exactly. That can make some pretty interesting Hondas.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so good deal for him. I'm going to get Ed Brewester on the line. But he said he's going to make it quick because he was pretty tuckered out from his weekend down there in Virginia. We'll see if
I'll tell you what, people don't realize, like, I've seen you and Ed put on some shows at Blizzard Bash and Bash for Cash, and you guys look wore out afterwards. I mean, it's officiating those isn't exactly easy. It keeps you hopping. It keeps you hopping, so it's makes for a long day.
Wait till you hear all the classes that they're in. I mean, it was ridiculous, really. They had old tracks. They had metal body car enduros. It was cool.
Oh, they run enduros with those too?
Hey, let me put you in. There we go. Yeah, they do enduros down there. Ed Brewster joining us online. The Bryant's Auto Service did the derby cars for kids down there. That's where they gave a car to a kid. It's Luke King got the car and finished 13th in the national class. Another sponsor was Team Butch and Ace Hobbies. John Roll won that car and took that car to 12th.
Cool.
So not too bad there. The Metal Muscle Race, which are metal-bodied street stocks, basically. They run those on the Egg Oval. Adrian Stafford won that. They had Mad Dog Awards for Zach Howey in the national class. Chris Warnick from Pennsylvania in the truck class, outlaw class. James Roberts from Ohio. Metal body drag race. They went on the asphalt track and drag raced the RC cars.
Really?
There. Daniel Roberts from Ohio won that. Zach Howey, Nate Brothers from New York went top 3 there. The endurance race, Chrissy Warnick from PA won that one. David Bryant from Virginia was 3rd. Metal body racing, which was the figure 8 trailer race, metal body car and a trailer as well.
That's insane.
Dustin Teal, you have to see it. Like, it turns into basically lawnmower blades at 35 miles an hour just because everything gets bent up and twisted and everything. Daniel Roberts won the truck class. Dustin Teal won the trailer race. And let's see, outlaw class, James Roberts won that over Daniel Roberts. And Daniel Roberts won the national class. So Daniel Roberts, again, cleaning house pretty effectively. And Ed, now joining us on the line, when he called me at 3 o'clock, I woke him up from a nap, and he said he was going to sleep until I called him again. So have you recovered at all from your weekend, Ed?
Not quite, man. I think it's going to take a few more days. Actually, I'm having quite a bit of problem hearing you, Chris.
Okay. Is that because those RC motors were so loud and it made you deaf?
Well, it could be, man. Getting at my age, you never know. It's probably just the old age getting me now. But, yeah, it was around a lot of racing. So Friday night racing was very good at Southside. It was a shame they suffered so many rainouts this year, and they needed that Friday night that we would do to crank up. And no complaints on it, though. They definitely issued some passes out to a lot of guys that come in town, and they enjoyed the Friday night racing. And that really didn't conclude till almost 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So as soon as we dumped that place out, we started filling our RC park up. Had a lot of people coming there camping with RVs, and just want to say to all of them, appreciate them being patient. We kind of sat out in the parking lot and waited on a lot of them to show up, and some of them went to the racing, some of them we just hung out in the parking lot.
Can't really beat it. It's a great place. We
Sounds
had
fun.
racing down there earlier this year. It was a ton of fun. It was one of the first times I've seen asphalt racing.
Yeah.
Live in person at the local level.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. But then Ed's got that huge event with the ECCs running 3 days down there. And it came together pretty well for you. It's another successful show. Hopefully it was as good for you and the track as it looked on paper.
Chris, I got to say, man, the ECC gets better every year, and this was just a fantastic event. I never thought it would all fall together as good as it did. We were facing weather issues the whole weekend. There was like 90 to 100% chance of rain. And most all day Saturday, it was like we had an umbrella over the park. There was rain totally encircling the area of Midlothian, but we didn't receive much more than a mist on Saturday. Sunday we woke up, had a little drizzle going out there, but it actually was beneficial to the tracks and the derby rink. Probably one of the best surfaces I've ever had an event on this year.
And you did it for all the metal body cars. When we flip over, it chopped it all up anyway.
I tell you, the metal body racing, man, it's going crazy. The people are loving it. We were scheduled for the trailer race, and after a lot of them saw the figure 8 track set up, they said, man, the trailer race has got to go to the figure 8. And everybody just had a blast with that. And it was just a totally full weekend. From about sun up till a lot of times, I guess probably 12 o'clock at night, we were still going at it out there Saturday night.
Wow, that's crazy.
And went back up to it 8 a.m., started running events again on Sunday. And we kind of ran out there till about 10 o'clock last night.
Now, explain to me the metal bodies. What is different from a metal body, or is it just basically the same style body as what you guys derby?
Typically RC cars.
We just call it various metal body racing. It's using the derby bodies. You're welcome to use any derby body you want. Only difference we have is in the metal muscle racing. We build those a slight bit different than the derby bodies. They're a little bit lighter. You don't have as heavy a cage. And I tell you what, they are really fun to race on the round track.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. And some of the guys that are used to run most of the RC cars that you see around here, those are all plastic body cars. You know, they have like a Lexan material.
Yep.
Yeah, or really thin, blow molded plastic even.
Yep.
And those guys see the metal cars, they get nervous because it's like they're going to get cut up when they start flipping over. Because there's these people called corner marshals that flip the cars over when they get wrecked, and you start getting those things twisted up, and you get some sharp corners on them. You know, well, you remember Blizzard Bash? I mean, there's been blood left from RC derbies.
No doubt.
No question. Ed talked about having his weather issues. He's eyeing a hurricane coming at him pretty soon.
I'm sorry, Chris, I can't hear you, man.
It's all right. We were just making sure that you're going to be safe in the hurricane.
Anyway, we're already trying to figure out 2019 how to outdo 18 here. And I don't know how we're going to accomplish that, but I think if we just do the same thing we did this year, I know next year we're going to have even bigger crowd and try to use a little imagination and see what else we can come up with to do with these metal bodies. The Derby does eat up a lot of time on that weekend, but there's still a lot of spare time to run other events. And I tell you what, we totally filled it. I was lucky to have Brady Clark enough to grab a good hot dog, and that was about it.
Did Mom cook?
Oh, yeah. Mom was in the house cooking. Thank goodness, because nobody wants me cooking. But, yeah, the food was great this year. We had a wide variety of food going, thanks to Mom. After the event, we had a pork butt roast, and that was pretty exciting, too.
Cool. So are you trying to hint around you want to have a mud boss race down there with the metal bodies next year?
Chris, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I think that would be great. Actually, we've developed that metal modified body, and we've ran it a couple of times, and it's well balanced. And I really think these metal modified bodies could probably keep up with the mud bosses.
Cool. Well, we can talk more about it. We can talk more about it when it gets closer. We got to get through the indoor season now. Is there anybody that you want to make mention of that helps sponsor, make the show possible?
Definitely, Chris. Cal RC, our main sponsor for sure. They've been with us since the beginning, and they just keep supporting us year after year. Performance Dynamics Hobby Store here in Mechanicsville, Virginia. This year we brought on Ace Hobbies with us. They were fantastic. They were delivering parts at the event as they were needed. The same thing we needed, Ace was right there for us. Golly, man, trying to think of all my sponsors. Steel Horse Harley Davidson now is the top sponsor on the Outlaw class. And, of course, Crash Course, you always support us, Chris. We appreciate that.
For sure. Anything you need, you let me know.
Okay, buddy. I sure will, man.
Go get some rest.
I'm going to try.
All right. We'll
good talk to you, buddy. Take care.
Always.
Thanks again, man.
We'll talk to you soon. There goes Ed Brewester enduring the perils of the East Coast Championship RC event down there at JMW Motorsports Park. I don't know how or when that got pushed, but I think I was muted for most of that.
Really?
I don't know. I give up. I'm just tired of all this technology. I'm just tired of looking at it. Tired of all of it.
I want to go back to hammer and chisel on a piece of slate.
I do. It would be so much easier. There's no quiet buttons on. There's no cough boxes on. Hammers and chisels. Let's see. So we did those locally. We talked about some of the local shows that are coming up and things along those lines. So now would be a good time to talk about those. As we got Mark Elliott waiting in the wings. So we're going to plug Mark in and tell you a little bit about some of the local stuff that is upcoming here. Spinning Wheels Productions, October the 6th. This is the San Filippo Smash. More than 200 entries. Bring it, and the officials will find you a heat. Anything left at the end can run for the San Filippo Cup. Classes include the Power Wheels, the Compacts, the Heavy Compacts, Chain Class, Limited Welds, Heavy Welds, the Extreme 2-Man Class, Trucks, Small SUVs and vans, and then the Gold Iron, which is 1959 and older. The event stands as a fundraiser for MPS3A research with a goal of $50,000. You can find out all the information that you need online, spinningwheelsproductions.com. It's going to be an awesome show. That Old Iron class is going to be awesome, that 1959 and older.
I can't wait to see what that looks like. That's going to be interesting.
It's going to be like jumping in the time machine, going backwards. And September the 29th, Madison County Fairgrounds in Brookfield, New York. That is the home of the Brookfield Wheel Days. That's the annual fall cleanup event. It really is a can't miss. You got to go check that one out sometime if you get the chance. Typically 150-plus entry. There's full-size and large six-cylinders running together. The Imperial only heat, full-size trucks, vans and SUVs, small sixes and four-cylinders. They run together. By the time you're done, you'll see 17 heats of Derby for sure. And they last an average of about 5 minutes. I mean, it's hard and it's fast. Facebook.com/King Smash from Crasham or www.MadisonCountyFairNY.com. Again, King Smash from Crasham Demolition Derbies overseeing the Madison County Fairgrounds Brookfield Wheel Days, September the 29th. They just injected a bunch of money back into that too. We talked locally about some of the stuff that's happening and some of the derbies and all the dominoes starting to fall. Lake Erie Rumble was this weekend. Lake Erie Rumble was always falls on a weekend where there's rain.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's almost a guarantee. Mm-hmm. Tom Henderson won the pro class out there. That's almost as much a guarantee as rain. On that weekend, Tom Henderson's going to win the heavy class. Tim Hanazuski took home a win in one of the classes out there. John Nickerson, good win for him in the four cylinders. Pete Glauniak taking home a win, and Jackson Pensek, which is Hank's kid, took home a win as well out there. And that all leads us to our conversation about this coming Saturday with Hillbilly Heaven, due up at the Columbiana County Fairgrounds in Lisbon, Ohio. After all things said and done, we're only about 4 minutes late on Mark. So glad, Mark, we could get to you about when we told you we were going to. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Chris. I just wanted to thank you guys for letting us have a few minutes here, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the show's going to be outstanding front to back. We've talked to Dave a couple times about it, but I know he's in a bowling league, and we weren't going to be able to get to him tonight, and we've talked a couple times about trying to get you on. I figured this would be a perfect time because you're the man in charge of that show. You're the traffic cop for Hillbilly Heaven. You got to be excited.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like that. He was reading off all that information, and it just kind of made me connect the dots on, you're talking about San Filippo and what a good cause that is and what a lineup. But I don't mean but. Listen to this, but it really made me connect the dots for this Big Rock show. So Big Rock is teamed up with G Limit. Dave definitely wanted me to thank Justin Garwood, who is with G Limit. So just a quick brief of what I know about G Limit. They're a completely another business, and they've got all kinds of off-road stuff, and they're sponsoring the Big Gun Show. But the point of the show is the reason they reached out to Dave and Big Rock is for Heroes and Halos. I didn't personally know what that is, and it's just something local in Columbiana, and where Dave's from, and where the Derby's at, and it's about children with mental illness. So, and I was doing some research on that and reading up on it, and just really makes you pretty thankful. I've got 2 healthy children, and there's days that I could just knock them together. I mean, they just drive you crazy sometimes. But Dave was telling me a story about somebody on a fishing trip, and it's their everyday life. You know, that's every day that, you know, they're kind of playing the hand they're dealt, and Dave didn't hesitate to jump on board with that, and the proceeds for the Derby, from I understand, and the raffle are going to that. So I definitely didn't hesitate as well to get on board with that. It's
a great cause. I mean, the whole operation out there, the Derby itself, has gained a lot of traction in about 6 months worth of promotion. They're drawing a lot of strong drivers, and it helps to have somebody like Dave out there with a lot of good connections that's going to help get those people to turn out, but also the cause of it, the raffles. I mean, they're giving away a couple side-by-sides, a couple rifles and stuff. The raffles are no joke. They're giving away some nice stuff in terms of the raffles, and those are going to go off every couple minutes. So, I mean, if you got your ticket and you don't win, just hang on to it. There's another opportunity coming. And the right group of people came together for this show. I mean, Bo Lockwood's going to be teching. Bobby Brockway's going to be teching. There's a bunch of Toby Hiley is going to be teching. A bunch of the guys that help with Smash It are coming down as well. So, I mean, you're going to have a fair derby on your hands, but these guys are a good group of guys to come together for a charity derby, just like Jeremy's got at San Filippo.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's like an all-star group of, Bobby, Jim, Youngblood, Billy, Eastep, Toast, I heard today, is a part of that. And Toby at second. I mean, I wouldn't want to take a car there if I was trying to get away with something. But Toby definitely wanted me to mention that they understand that it's late in the year. You know what happens once county fairs hit. You start getting modifications to pre-rans, and I think they're going to allow 4 patch plates, but they're also going to allow that for the fresh cars to just try to keep an even field as well.
Sure. Yeah, those cleanup shows, it's much better to bring a pre-run car.
Oh, yeah.
It's a patch some metal and add a plate here, add a plate there, and well, it had 6 because I ran it here, so now you're windowing out plates and you're adding plates because you know you might just have to window them. Yeah, that can get to be a mess for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of engineers would love this, really.
But so it sounds like he kind of mirrored a Smash It type. He said he's got mild weld, 80s wire, kicker, RC, power wheels.
Yep.
I think that was pretty smart on his part because there's so many Smash It derbies that there's a lot of those cars floating around out there, and Toby's already leading on one of those Smash It crews. So, I mean, it definitely makes sense. I think that was a good move on their part as well.
Well, there's a ton of continuity logistics that you run into when you have a fall cleanup show. And by taking the rule book with permission, that conversation happened between Dave and Tim and Russ at Smash It,
right,
to make sure that it was okay that they took that rule book, and they just copied the rule book and said, as long as your rules fit as long as your car fits these parameters, this is a class that you're going to run in, and if it's a pre-run, it has to fit these repair parameters. It was simple, and capitalizing on a promotion crew that's got, I think it was 35 of their 42 events happen in the state of Ohio, so everybody's already accustomed to that. And then you've got the same tech crew coming. It's just a no-brainer. The continuity issues just go away.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, so I just come from Labor Day lockdown, and there was a lot of people there talking about going, even some bringing cars. So you're right there on that Pennsylvania border.
Yeah.
I hope he does well, especially for the calls.
Absolutely.
What are you looking forward to with this? I mean, it's got to still be fun for you to be going around and announcing demolition derbies, right? It's not a business, and it's still fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, do what you love what you do. Like, to actually get to do something I would have never guessed in a million years that I would be a part of, and I'm still kind of like trying to embrace it. But I look forward to. I mean, I got so many friends on the crew that I just don't get to see much, and then friends in the derby, and I mean. Have you ever heard of a derby where you could come home with an AR-15? I mean, what the heck? It's like,
no.
If you don't buy it, they got a gun show during the day.
And when you phrase it like that, it makes me a little bit more nervous.
Yeah, it was like, are they selling bullets? They've got AK-47. It's like, what the heck? I can just see me on my way home with an AK-47. Oh, man, that's crazy.
Will an AK-47, when broken down, fit in your microphone case?
Well, I've got a pretty nice backpack, but there's nothing else that could fit in it. So,
right.
If I get pulled over, I'm going to have to definitely have a story ready for sure.
Yeah, you got some explaining to do.
I just won this at a demolition derby, and it's going to be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I bet you the driver's door hit conversations are a bit more civil.
Yeah, like you can just see the officials. They've got those belts, the chest straps with bullets, and I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do here, but definitely be interesting. As you can relate, you never know until you get there what you're going to get.
No,
that is true.
It's going to be a good derby. I think you guys are in for a good afternoon. Front to back, and I know there was some interesting logistics. So I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you about the cookout, but there was supposed to be a bunch of barbecue cook-offs. Even if they don't do a cook-off and half of them come, you're not going to leave there hungry.
No,
it's
right.
That's
I mean, it sounds like they're going to have vendors. Honestly, it sounds like this G Limit, man. I've never known them to be a part of a derby unless it just wasn't advertised. But man, they're coming in hot. So.
Best way to come in.
To pick out Big Rock, I mean, Diver, he like set the stage for cradles. I know there were some things before, but when they came out with that extreme, it was like, man, if you didn't have an extreme, you didn't have anything. And we see the same thing today with the ski cradle and stuff, but Dave has hung in there and he stayed around, and so I think that was a good move on their part as well to bring in Big Rock. Like you said, he's got connections for days.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember the specifics of the story, but I almost want to say that the original Extreme was still in use.
It's probably Bradley's car.
That wouldn't surprise me, and me and Dave just talked about it today, and you start going down memory lane, and I remember how excited I was when I got my first one, and Dave, he made note to give credit to Toby and talked about how much, or how he believes like he was a big part, if not a lot of part, why it even happened and was designed. And like I said, man, when it came out, it was just so gnarly. It was ahead of its time. And even if it was just because it looked cool or the next guy had one, like it's like, holy shit, you got to have an Extreme.
Right. And it went from the Extreme to now we have them with stack protectors.
Yeah.
Where's the engine?
Yeah. It certainly has evolved. No question.
Bobby does still run one of the old school Extremes though.
Yeah.
I think Dave had the first new style that Dave did this year, I think had Bobby's number on it, and it was Bobby's. I think Bobby has it, but I don't know if he's going to take the old one off the motor.
What's Bobby's number?
76X.
Wrong. It's underbuilt. They made him put a number.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's Chris Marquardt and I'm not.
Uh-huh. He'll text me later and tell me I'm wrong, but every time I bring it up, the story changes, so who knows?
Gotcha.
I'm sure you'll hear about that.
I hope so. Well, is there anybody else that you wanted to make mention of with this one? You got to get there. Columbiana County Fairgrounds, Lisbon, Ohio. It's the Hillbilly Heaven show. There's a gun show. There's raffles. A ton of this is going back into charity with the Heroes and Halos program. It's going to be an outstanding derby. Beyond that, Dave Diver with Big Rock is working on it with Justin. Is there anybody else that you wanted to make mention of or make sure that we got in?
Man, I think we got it covered, and I definitely want to end with just sincerely thanking you guys for giving him that plug. I mean, every little bit helps, and I know he, speaking for him and myself and the rest of the crew, really appreciate you guys letting us on.
For sure, man. It's we love talking with Dave, and we wanted to get you on, so this really went hand in hand.
Good. I hope all is well for both of you as well too.
Thanks a lot. We do appreciate that. I expect on Monday that you'll be available for a full report on everything that happened, since you got the best seat in the house.
Yeah, count on it. I'm in.
All right. We'll plan on talking to you then.
Okay, Chris and Brian, I think that's all it's there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys have a good week, and
you too.
Don't hesitate to make that trip if you're feeling froggy.
We'll catch up with you Monday, if not before.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mark. We'll see ya.
All right. See ya.
Mark Elliott. He was doing a bunch of Facebook Live stuff when he was down at Jordan Rutherford's show.
Yep.
Andy Lee went down there and helped Rutherford and stuff, and I think Andy's going to be making the trip to Blizzard Bash with them this year.
That's cool.
Be neat. I'm sure they're going to make him sleep in the back seat of the car with no windows.
That would work. That would work. But, yeah, it's a busy time of year. I mean, it's, it'll be Blizzard Bash.
But it's not supposed to be. It's after Labor Day. Everything's supposed to be done with.
It'll be Blizzard Bash before you know it. Then they'll be starting out next year with the Florida Showdown and so on and so forth. And just crazy how the sport's evolved.
Yeah. It does not ever stop, that's for sure.
Not a bit.
All right. Well, what do you think? We cover all of our bases this time?
I think we're good.
All right. Sounds good to me. We'll call this one even. We'll see everybody again next time. It's going to do it for this edition of the Crash Course, number 242 in the books and all done. We'll catch up with everybody next time. Big thanks out to all of our guests, Jeremy Gard, Johnny Gullo, Brewester, Mark Elliott. Get out there and check those guys out this weekend, and there's a ton of derby action happening in the Northeast. Listen back to the show if you need the dates. We got a bunch of ad slides out there with the dates that you're going to be interested in. That's going to do it for this one. We'll see everybody again next Monday.
Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Strirrin Dirt Racing, hosts of May Mania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirrindirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel, and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York.